was a guy that called in and he said, your beard isn't long enough, so I'm questioning whether you're even a man. And I was like, you know what? I'll affirm it. Like my hair has nothing to do with being Orthodox. It was a request from Jamie because she likes long hair, and my beard is not very long. So I just conceded to the guy the other night. I was like, okay, I'm not Orthodox. Fine. I don't have a very long beard, so I'm not Orthodox. I'll take it. It's fine. I mean, what?
Yeah. Well, what's yeah, I think that like it's when people start to identify the
It's
externals.
the externals being the
Yeah,
sign of like, oh, I'm really Orthodox. How do I know? Well, I have a title in my name from a monastery that calls me this, or I have this, um,
or you show up to church wearing all black
yeah,
with a 300 knot prayer robe, a terrible beard that's like unkept, and super long hair, which lay people are not blessed to have long hair, ponytails, right? Like St. Paul says this in the early canons of the church, right? And it's like, why? Because it's like it's not for men. The priests are given it as an exception. But even if you go back and look at the icons of like Chrysostom and Paul and others, they all had short hair. That was actually the norm. The thing today with long hair really comes more out of the Russian church or people who are like playing monastic, like I'm wearing all black to every service. I can't wear any other colors. You know what I mean? I only listen to Orthodox chant in my car. I can't, you know what I mean? Like, I'll tell you a funny story. I got picked up, Father Zechariah Lynch, right?
yeah,
Yeah. So we were in seminary together. We would do construction together. Father Zechariah is a great guy. And he picked me up in his minivan. And I get in and the music starts like, dong, dong. And I'm like, oh, for who the bell tolls. Like, I thought it was Metallica. And then it was like, Gospodi, boy. It was like this chanting started.
yeah,
And I was like, oh, maybe we're listening to different things. But I mean, the point is like when orthodoxy becomes your identity, that's where it's problematic. My identity is in Christ. He's a real person. He's a person. He's the God man. That's where my identity is. My identity is in being loved by Jesus Christ. That is what defines me. I am an Orthodox Christian. I am in the church. That is true. I am a priest. All of those are true. But my identity is that I'm loved by Christ. If I lose everything tomorrow, I'm still Christ. And that's all that matters. And if we start to fix our eyes on the externals of like, and also like what I'm not, like when people are like, oh, I'm not Protestant. It's like, what kind of pretentiousness is that? Like, oh, I'm not Roman Catholic. It's like, I understand that they're heretical sects, but you don't define yourself by what you're not. You have to have a positive sense of who you are. You know what I mean? And we should have compassion. We should have compassion on those people, not pretentiousness. Like like we're so much better than all of them. Like that's such nonsense. Anyways, like is the church perfect? Yes. Are those heretical sects? Yes. Is pretentiousness a sin? Absolutely. We should have we should have
yeah.
we should have humility.
Well, this is the message of the when we have the reading of the Samaritan woman, right? Because the Samaritans were the schismatics, and the Pharisees were like, "Well, I'm too good to help that person out." They're cursed because they're schismatics, and then the Good Samaritan is the one who shows mercy, even though that person was, outside of the fold. So, absolutely.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
a lot of people they'll say that showing mercy that means that we're supposed to be an ecumenist, right? Which is a perversion of the passage. It's like, no, it's not saying that you have to say that, well, we're all one true church and everything's the same. It's saying that, if a Roman Catholic dude has his car stranded down the road and, I see he's got the papal stickers on his car or something, and I'm going to drive by and just like, ignore him, right? I'm violating the very point of that parable. I should help that guy, even though he's a Roman Catholic, because that's what charity does.
Yeah. We need to be, we need to be humans. Like we're created in the image of God. We're the most noble of all creation. We're higher than the angels. We should live up to that nobility and be noble in all that we do and the way that we carry ourselves and the way that we interact. And these are real people. I think that's the problem with the anonymity on Twitter There's no real people. There's just a name or an icon or whatever. They're not real people. And it gives people the sense that they can just kind of crap on each other, that they can just be hurtful or say rude things or just be flippant. It's very, very toxic because it's like, first off, like you never talk to people like this in person.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Just don't. And why not? It's like because you'd be ashamed. They would look at you and you would be ashamed of yourself. But people do this online because there's this barrier, behind the screen where I don't have to take accountability for saying something horrendous to somebody else. And
So
when
is
people
is that anonymity maybe another red flag? Because it's also a way for people who are actually malicious and do want to, stop people from being orthodox. I mean, there are people who are out there that are doing that, and they will sort of concoct things and they'll say things and they'll try to do, subversive techniques and tactics to confuse people on purpose, using a lot of anonymous profiles.
I mean, I put it on my profile recently and I said, I think every Orthodox Christian should have their name on Twitter. And I think they should have their parish too, because then it takes away the get out of jail free card. So if somebody's an a-hole, they can't, and I mean, forgive me, I'm just being honest, but like if somebody's being a jerk to somebody else, they can't just, oh, well, you'll never find me, or you don't know who I really am, or whatever else. Right. And that's what I think I see is like, people, especially with men, they're like mad disrespectful to each other. And all of the guys, I mean, I've known some gnarly characters. Let's just say that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Some homies that did a lot of time. Most respectful people you'll ever meet. Why? Because they know that if it goes south, they're gonna have to stab you.
Yeah, in the real world, you can't be just randomly disrespectful without. I mean, because there's consequences to that. So it allows this pseudo world, this pseudo reality where people are kind of letting their nastiness come out because they're not like you said, not accountable. And the excuse is, well, you're going to dox me. Well, no, saying if you're going to be publicly trying to teach and tell people what Orthodox theology is and this kind of stuff, there's no such thing as doing that without being accountable, right?
Exactly. There's none of that. There's no self-appointed. If you're doing it and you're self-appointed, you shouldn't be doing it anyways. And if you have to hide, like I don't get to hide as a priest, why would lay people get to hide? You know what I mean? Like, why would they get to hide behind the anonymity and a lack of repercussions? And I mean that because especially you see this with the males, which is like it's a very catty feminine energy.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? They're like scratching each other and they're like shrieking and saying nasty, mean things to each other. It's like, listen, men don't talk like this. Real men don't articulate to each other in this manner because if you do that in person, it's going to get escalated. And we all know there's only one way to solve it once it gets escalated. That's why people hold their tongue when they're in person, because they know that it's like it could go south. That's not good. And it doesn't show the nobility of orthodoxy, these, kind of screeching, feminist energy, catty, out the side of your mouth, passive aggressive comments. None of that is like, wow, orthodoxy is like, it's so manly. Like all the guys act like chicks.
So, and do you think that the root of that is probably multiple, the culture in general, guys being feminized, not having outlets like, I know you're a big you're into weightlifting, you're a power lifter. Guys are missing real masculinity in the culture ultimately.
And I think, yeah, and they're missing, we don't really have brotherhoods. We don't have brotherhood. Like
Yeah.
my church, I'm very blessed. Like we have a brotherhood. We just went and blessed the waters. It's like 40 degrees out, which is crazy for Texas, and then plus wind chill. But we probably had 15 guys jump in the cold water together, right? And everybody's, doing this. It's like, why? Because it's like we're men. It is part of being Orthodox. We want to get in there. We want to challenge ourselves.
Yeah.
we want to do something hard. I'm very blessed because I got a lot of guys at my church that are of, a similar ethos in that regard. Um, and that's healthy. But, yeah, there's certainly churches where the male atmosphere is lacking, to say the least. Uh, I think the big problem is the height of manliness is to love Christ, because that means you've overcome your inclinations as a man to deify yourself. Literally, the hardest thing for a man to do is to love Christ. Women's spiritual baseline is so much higher than men, and women's inclination is so much more natural. So we lose that idea when we think it's like manliness is something else. It's not. It's that's what it is. Manliness is loving Christ. If I meet a guy who's 5'8", 125 pounds, and I have a sense he loves Christ, that's a man. Now I'm going to encourage him to gain 50 pounds because, he's, if he wants to have a family, he needs to be able to take care of and defend them. But the core there is manliness. And yeah, a lot of times in parishes, we're missing good, strong brotherhoods. And that's the thing. What do men like to do? We like to do stuff together. We don't need it. We don't need a book study. We don't need to hang out and talk about our feelings or something else. We need to renovate the church. We need to jackhammer up the
Yeah,
floor.
we had a good time at my parish. All the guys just got together, and basically, when we expanded the parish, all the guys just hung out by like moving all the stuff. It took us like 3 hours to move stuff, and it was like a guy time.
Yeah, well, I mean, we've renovated like multiple aspects of our church all together as the brotherhood. This Sunday, we're going to build a new cross out front. Um, so I mean, but yeah, you got to have stuff. And then we go, like we do an annual men's retreat where we go and we cook brisket and shoot guns and just hang out together and shoot tannerite and whatever else. Like just being men together. We don't have to. I think there's a kind of this idea like it's all got to be. I don't know, like you know what I mean, emotionally bonding or something. Men
Yeah,
bond.
yeah, exactly. Now, and this honest question, I'm not trying to,
Yeah.
because some people will say, but don't the canons not allow for that kind of stuff? Like, what if somebody says priests can't shoot guns? And I'm not accusing you. I'm saying people will say these kinds of things, like, oh, you can't do that as a priest. That's not allowable. What do you think about that?
Well, technically the can. I mean, yeah. So technically the canons don't say that the priest can't shoot guns. What the canons say is that if you shoot somebody with the gun,
Hmm.
then you're not a priest anymore. But even that's a gray area if you go to the Serbian.
That's what I was going to ask because I've heard of stories where that doesn't line up.
Well, the Serbians are crazy. So and they don't say that because it's true. They're crazy. But I remember talking with a Serbian priest, and I was like, Father Roddy, I'm like, how is it? When they had that internal whatever, war conflict, I'm like, how is it that the Serbian priest fought? And he goes, well, we just figure if the other guy has a gun and you have a gun, it's equal. So he's like,
Okay.
all the priests, they would shoot at people that were also shooting at them. And when it was all over, they put their guns down and then they went back to the priesthood. So,
Yeah.
but that's the Serbians. They're marching to their own drum.